afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Forecast. We start with a live look at Niagara Falls right now, and you see all of that blue sky. That is looking like a gorgeous day. A little bit on the cool side though in Niagara Falls, if the temperatures are still what they were about a half hour ago. Just 49 degrees right now, but all of that sunshine. I was just outside. When you have that sun on you, that 49 doesn't feel so bad. It actually feels pretty nice. So all in all, not too bad of a day today, as long as you can kind of get over that 10 to 15 degrees below average. Welcome to Beyond the Forecast. I am meteorologist Lauren Maroney.
And I'm meteorologist Patrick Hammer. Hi, Lauren. It is, you're so right. It is 54 degrees here, and there's nothing about this that feels 54. It feels like approaching mid-60s with the sun, not a cloud in the sky. Absolutely beautiful day today. A little reminiscent of what we had yesterday. So could it be that we have strung 2 nice days in a row together? I mean, could it be? It seems like we haven't had a chance to do that very much this season. So get out and enjoy this nice weather, which, by the way, has a little bit of staying power. I think we're gonna bring in another one of these, at least mostly, well, somewhat similar to this tomorrow. So what we're gonna do is take a peek at the forecast ahead over the next 7 days. And then Lauren, coming up in our next segment, is gonna talk all things tropical weather, hurricanes, and more information, very in-depth, very cool, very, you're gonna learn something kind of information that Lauren's gonna have with you coming up. But let's start with the forecast, and bottom line is plenty of sunshine today. It looks absolutely beautiful, and numbers in the low to maybe mid-50s, so that's very nice. A mix, there will be some passing clouds, especially across our northern zones. There might be a few scrappy mid-level clouds moving through. Mostly sunny tomorrow, and temperatures will be maybe a tick above today, upper 50s to around 60 degrees. But clouds will be increasing late in the day, and that will lead to some rain showers around here tomorrow late evening, tomorrow night, and into parts of Wednesday. Wednesday will be the one kind of crummy day this week. And it doesn't look all that, I mean, it's going to be showers and temperatures generally right around 60 degrees, but not awful. So looking ahead over the next 2 days, one thing I want to point out is that after today's beautiful weather, tonight will be clear, but it's going to be cold down into the 30s. A frost is likely tonight, and possibly for the entire region. We haven't really had a frost advisory yet for Buffalo, Niagara. That very well may be the case. I don't think we have this season. So this might be the first. We had one last night this morning rather, for the southern tier in northern PA. There will be most likely a freeze warning there for tomorrow morning as temperatures get quite cold. And then into the upper 50s, close to 60 degrees tomorrow with that increase in cloud cover, leading to, you know, the one chance of rain that we pretty much have all week, and that is Wednesday. As the system barrels in Tuesday night into Wednesday, with a smaller shower chance into Thursday. Thursday, we're going to be kind of on the backside of it. Some lingering clouds, maybe a sprinkle or a shower, but most of the rain with this system is going to be tomorrow night and into Wednesday. All right, your current numbers. As Lauren mentioned, we're still in the upper 40s to the north. We are climbing into the 50s after a chilly morning. And again, this sunshine is helping the temperatures feel even more comfortable. Numbers will climb from these values, and we'll probably add a few degrees for our daytime highs. Satellite and radar, pretty quiet. A couple of clouds to the north moving through. Saw some of those this morning, and we'll continue to see fair weather today. Tonight, clearing skies, we expand out a bit. And there's nothing imminent, nothing coming our way weather-wise outside of some rain, as I mentioned, starting tomorrow night. So that wider view does show some rain to the south, down into the Hampton Roads and parts of Virginia, but up here, just some high clouds or mid-level clouds moving through. So here's a quick peek at future look, and it shows you a general wide range or wide view of the weather coming in tomorrow night. Notice rain chances increasing tomorrow late evening. It rains Tuesday night, and then on Wednesday, scattered showers, and this system is going to be on the move and moving out of here on Thursday. It will keep temperatures below average as the clouds thicken up and the rain showers occur. In fact, here's a closer look at the future look for the region across western New York starting today. Sunshine, high mid-level clouds, that's it. Tonight, notice the clearing, and that's going to allow for temperatures to tumble into the 30s. And then for tomorrow, notice sunshine, but there's a veil of high clouds moving through and eventually some rain. The models have been hinting at an 8 to 9 p.m. arrival time of the rain, which means if you're doing any kind of watch party, that will hopefully won't be tears raining down on Tuesday night, but actual raindrops if you're going to be out and about watching the Sabres play in Montreal. Maybe there's some outdoor watch parties. Again, we want raindrops, not tears. Tears of sorrow flowed last night, of course. Anyway, notice the clouds giving way, and the rain increasing Tuesday night with scattered showers into Wednesday. There will be some dry times on Wednesday as well. So that leaves us with our high temperatures today, which will be in the low to mid 50s with plenty of sun and just again a few clouds. Tonight, overnight lows will fall into the low 30s. Low to mid 30s for even the Buffalo Metro, and I think some upper 20s are possible. Places like Olean and Bradford, the cooler spots, could see numbers drop into the 20s. And then for tomorrow, plenty of sun, but increasing clouds late in the day. High temperatures, upper 50s, very close to 60 degrees. So for today, we're calling it partly sunny. Right now, we're pretty much cloud-free here, but again, some clouds will move through from time to time. 53 light winds for tomorrow. Tonight, rather, clear skies, and there will be a frost with temperatures dropping into the low to mid 30s. And then for tomorrow, sunny skies, increasing clouds late. 7-day forecast does show the rain on showers on Wednesday, lingering clouds Thursday. Friday looks nice, and for the weekend, 60s on Saturday, 70s on Sunday. And there is a small chance of a shower on Sunday, or this weekend is still a little in question, okay? What I want to do is quickly now show you the topic of the day, the extra topic, and that is Lauren's discussion of tropical weather. And of course, hurricanes are the main tropical feature, or tropical storms and hurricanes. Wanted just to give you a quick little description of where they're called and what they're called. In the Atlantic Basin, including the Gulf of Mexico, these tropical systems are called hurricanes. When a tropical storm gets above 74 miles an hour, it becomes a hurricane. Traveling out to the west in the East Pacific, the storms that affect the Mexico coast, the Baja, and Hawaii, those are called hurricanes as well. You can have active seasons. It doesn't always parallel the activity in the Atlantic, by the way. And then farther to the west, we head into the West Pacific, and here hurricanes or tropical systems are called typhoons. Same thing, they just get a bigger name, a different name. And typhoons, actually in this part of the world, tend to be the strongest. The strongest tropical systems on the planet usually occur in this region that affect Indonesia, the Philippines, Taiwan, China, Japan, and then north from there, they often recurve into the Pacific and turn into big old extratropical cyclones in the Gulf of Alaska. And then finally, down in the southern Pacific, down by Australia, and also the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal, hurricanes or tropical systems there are called cyclones, all right? So that's what they all are, is a cyclone, but that's just the name they're given. It's a cyclone. And the nickname, by the way, for hurricanes or cyclones in near Alaska, they're called Willy Willies. Kind of an interesting little nickname. Not sure where that came from, but that's what they're called, Willy Willies. So, all right, I set you up, Lauren. That's what you're going to talk about. I can't wait to hear your discussion of hurricanes and tropical systems coming up next.
Yeah, we're going to talk about hurricanes, kind of what hurricane seasons have looked like, what we look for in determining what a hurricane season might look like, because believe it or not, hurricane season is coming up. So more on that when we return.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Lauren, let's hear about hurricanes.
Sure, Patrick, I will take it away. So I'm going to start with hurricane season. We always talk about hurricane season. When is hurricane season? It spans about 6 months of the year. So hurricane season officially starts on June 1st and it doesn't end until November 30th. You do notice this graph does show all the way from May through December. Technically speaking, you can get a hurricane at any time of the year. However, this is when they are most common. The kind of scary markings in red, that indicates the frequency of storms, any kind of storms, any tropical storms or hurricanes, whereas the yellow shows the frequency of hurricanes specifically. And you do notice kind of in that August to September timeframe, that is when the season does start to spike. Obviously, if you look at where we are today, we are still in May. Hurricane season has not yet started. Not to say that you couldn't get anything, but we are looking okay in the Atlantic right now, and that will be starting on the 1st of next month. So let's talk about the type of storms that we most commonly talk about during hurricane season. So you can have a depression, a tropical storm, or a hurricane, and this has a lot to do with what the maximum sustained winds are. When we talk about maximum sustained winds, we're talking about in miles per hour, and they have to be sustained for a minute. So a depression is any kind of organized tropical system that has a maximum sustained wind of below 39 miles an hour. Once you hit 39 miles an hour and all the way up to 73 miles per hour, that is when it is a tropical storm. And once you hit 74 and anything above 74, that is considered a hurricane. Now, whenever the National Hurricane Center issues updates on what the maximum sustained winds are, they do give them in intervals of 5s. So if you want to think of it as 40, then 40 to 75 and 75 plus, that's pretty much how we'll be giving you that information. But technically, that is the actual threshold. And then when you're looking at it on a map, a circle kind of represents that depression. You have a little cyclone with a circle in the middle to represent the tropical storm, and then a little cyclone fully filled in represents the hurricane. And this always kind of confused me because the hurricane is typically the one that gets that defined eye, but I am not in charge of what the symbols are. The fully filled in one is the hurricane. And of course, there are different categories of hurricanes. You have a Category 1 hurricane up to 95 mile an hour sustained winds, Category 2 from 96 to 110, 3, 111 to 129, Category 4, 130 to 156, and Category 5, that is anything from 157 or more. And anything that is a Category 3 or greater is considered a major hurricane. Now, we do have these categories, and they are important in understanding the intensity of a given hurricane, but people tend to get pretty hung up on what the category is. They think if it's a Category 1 hurricane, well, it's not going to cause as much damage as a Category 3 or a Category 4. And yes, those sustained winds are important. That is how we determine what the category is, but that is not the only type of damage that we get from hurricanes. And there are plenty of hurricanes that aren't as high of category that have been even more devastating, because the main danger that comes from hurricanes is that storm surge. Then it's the flooding that you get more inland from the heavy torrential rainfall. And then it is the high winds. So yes, the high winds are very important. They can rip trees out of their roots. They can knock down power lines, leaving for outages for days. They can rip roofs off of houses. I am not saying the winds are not serious. However, the storm surge accounts for about half of all fatalities associated with hurricanes. And that has to do, yes, in part with the winds. So the winds do affect that because of how strongly they are pushing those waters on shore. It is also important to consider what angle the storm is making landfall. The more perpendicular, the more direct it is going to be pushing that water on shore. So that will also give you a stronger storm surge. And timing is key. If that landfall is happening during high tide, that is when you can get a really devastating storm surge. If you tend to be a little bit more fortunate and it's at low tide, it won't be as bad. And then that flooding, what really comes to mind for me, I lived in New York in 2021. That is when Hurricane Ida happened. And so that was a Category 4 hurricane, but it made a landfall in Louisiana. By the time we saw it in New York City, that was just the remnants of Ida, but that was devastating. There was a record rainfall rates of, I think, about 3.5 inches per hour. Daily rainfall rates were set. There were fatalities. There was a lot of flooding. The transit system couldn't handle it, so that flooding is definitely a concern and very much associated with hurricanes. So what does an average hurricane season look like? Typically, on average, we will see 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 of them will be major, so Category 3 or above. Last year, we had a slightly below average hurricane system with 13 named storms, 5 hurricanes, but 4 of those were major, and that is kind of a trend that we see with all of that intensification of those hurricanes. And the records, so on record, the most named storms we've seen in a season have been 30. That was in 2020, which was a record-shattering hurricane season. Most number of hurricanes, 15. I believe that was actually 2005. So that was the year of Katrina. That was the previous record holder until 2020 came around with this 30 storms. And then major hurricanes, 7, also set in 2020. So 2005 and 2020 were pretty devastating years when it came to hurricanes. And people always talk about those hurricane names. These are what the names are going to be for 2026. Now, if you can do the quick math or you're really good at kind of judging numbers, there are only 21 names here, and I just said the record was 30. So typically what would happen is that they would then, after they got to the final name, so this year it will be Wilfred. This is actually the same list of names that was 2020. One that really stands out to me is Isaias. Number one, because a lot of people were confused about how to pronounce it. It is Isaias, and because it led to a lot of power outages, but it was not retired. What does happen when a storm is particularly impactful, to avoid confusion or to avoid kind of stirring up emotions or just whatever, that name will be retired. So the name Leah here is actually new. It was Laura in 2020. So we don't get a full new list of names every single year. What we do is we cycle through 6 different lists of names. So now that it is 2026, we are going back to that 2020 list with just a few names subbed out that were retired. So anyway, as I was saying, when you see more than 21 storms, then what we used to do is we would go to the Greek alphabet. So that is what we did in 2020. However, a lot of those storms were devastating, and 2 of those Greek alphabet names, I believe it was Eta and Iota. I know Iota for sure. They were retired, which then causes a whole other sort of confusion where it's like, then you do the Greek alphabet, but then do you just skip letters? So then they created the supplemental list. So if we happen to see over 21 storms this year or on any other year, we will break into the supplemental list and then only swapping those as necessary. So what can lead to a particularly active or a particularly calm hurricane season? There are kind of these 3 factors. We have the El Niño Southern Oscillation, sea surface temperatures, and the Saharan air layer. So let's talk about El Niño. I spent a whole day kind of talking about El Niño, but just very simply, it has to do with how strong the trade winds are. When they weaken, you get kind of a warmer Pacific, and what that does for us in terms of the hurricane season is it actually weakens, it actually increases the shear that you get, and when you have a lot of shear, that kind of makes it harder for hurricanes to develop, whereas when you have a La Nina, there is less shear, so it is easier for hurricanes to develop. Then when it comes to sea surface temperatures, warmer temperatures just fuel that sea surface development. So this is kind of a look at what our sea surface temperatures are right now, and this is switching it to what the anomalies are. Obviously, the yellow is above average, the blue is below. So you do notice right by Africa, which is typically where all of our tropical storms do originate. It'll be a wave off of Africa that picks up energy and intensity as it kind of crosses toward our area. So it's cooler there, but it is above average. in our tropics. You notice specifically the Gulf does look pretty warm, and that is an area where we do see a lot of rapid intensification. That's kind of a big buzzword. What does that mean? That is when a hurricane will increase 35 miles an hour or more in terms of its maximum sustained winds in a 24-hour period. And then there is the Saharan air layer, but you know what? I am gonna cut to a break, and I am gonna tell you all about that when we come back.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hard to believe that hurricanes can be influenced by something so far away. It's the SAR, the Saharan air layer, and Lauren's going to talk about that. Good morning, or good afternoon, Lauren.
Good afternoon, Patrick. Yeah, so that Saharan air layer, so basically it's when you have really strong winds around that Saharan desert in Africa. It blows a lot of that very warm, very dry air into the Atlantic. Also, it includes even some sand from the desert. So what that does is it is very dry, and those winds increase that wind shear, and it is also very warm air. So basically what that does is it kind of makes it a lot harder for hurricanes to develop. So when you have a very active Saharan air layer, which it typically peaks around that June, July timeframe. So that's kind of why we don't really see that peak of hurricane season until that August, September time when that cools down. And it's because you have that very dry air. It takes all of that moisture away from those potentially developing tropical storms, because they need, yes, those warm sea surface temperatures, but they also need that moisture, and you just don't get it. The winds also shear it and prevent it from fully kind of growing, and then they take up all that warmth. They're gonna kind of absorb that warmth from the sun, so the sea surface is not becoming the thing that is very warm. So there have been years where we get a very slow start to hurricane season because of that. And kind of speaking of like what that forecast is going to look like, NOAA, the National Hurricane Service, has not released their forecast for hurricane season. They will be doing that on May 21st, but we will let you know what that is. But other sources have been forecasting a slightly below average hurricane season because of the El Nino, and sea surface temperatures aren't too bad right now.
Yeah, the El Nino will keep numbers in the Atlantic down. However, the numbers in the Pacific may be elevated this season due to a developing El Nino. Something to watch, especially if you have interest in Hawaii, Mexico, or the Baja. Even Southern California sometimes can be under the gun. But very interesting. A beautiful day today. We'll wrap things up. We're going to be with you Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays moving forward. We'll see you Wednesday.